Have you ever had a moment in your life where your brain is trying to logic its way through and go, this is a great idea for this and this and this reason, but your body goes, I don't know, girlfriend, let's reconsider. Or this doesn't feel aligned. I don't think this is a good idea. Can you think of a moment in your life where you've had that kind of division between your head and your body? Join me this week as we talk about intuition and extrasensory perception, what that is, and how it can be a guiding star in the dark for health decisions, life decisions, and so much more.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. Today, we're going to be tapping into divine intelligence inside of your body. So, as you listen to this, and if you're driving while you listen to this, please don't take your hands off the wheel of the car. But if you are listening to this in any other space except driving and your hands are free, I want to invite you to put one hand over your heart and one hand over your womb space and just drop into your body. So I'm going to have you take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Feel your low belly fill with air. And then exhale nice and slow and feel your energy get heavier down into your body and become even more a part of whatever surface you are sitting or laying upon. And I'm going to invite you to take a couple more breaths like this and really get settled down into your body. When you get into this space and you feel relaxed and you feel connected with your body, what do you notice? Do you notice that your muscles are tense somewhere? Do you notice that maybe you are more tired than you expected to be? All too often, we push and push and push in a super busy world, and we don't take time to come home to self. Women are some of the most intuitive creatures, and yet we are unable to harness and use our superpower. And yes, this is a superpower because we have a hard time clearing our mind enough and essentially setting time aside for ourselves in order to be able to get connected with our body once more. If this simple little exercise, if it feels really hard to do right now, that's okay. If this simple little exercise makes you feel anxious because you feel like you should be doing something else, that's okay. Just take note of these things because this is where you are starting in this journey. This whole episode is about how, when we learn to connect in with this quiet space inside of our body, our knowing, our intuition becomes heightened. And as intuitive beings, this really is a superpower for us to harness. And a lot of times we have a hard time connecting with this superpower simply because our day to day life is so busy and there's so much noise. And when I say noise, yeah, maybe it's in the environment around you. It might be loud. You might live in a city. You might have kids that are screaming at all hours of the day. Like whatever it is that's creating the loud. Sometimes it's the chatter in your mind that is loud. Sometimes it's the to do list that is loud, right? And when we're in this loud environment, it is really, really hard to listen to that quiet little whisper inside of your body that tells you what direction you should go in, whether there's something you should look into deeper and more. So, what is extrasensory perception? Extrasensory perception is, and this is going to be the best analogy I can come up with to explain this concept, but think about when you are doing something and you think you're in the house all by yourself, or maybe in the room all by yourself, and you're busy doing something, and then all of a sudden you get that like tingly feeling where you're like, I don't feel like I'm alone anymore, or there's somebody in the room with me, and you turn around and there's a person there. They haven't said anything, they haven't alerted you to their presence. You just get that feeling where you know that there's someone in the room with you. Anybody experience that? I get that all the time. And that's the best way I can think of to explain this knowing, this extrasensory perception, because we all have this field around our body that interacts with the world around us, a biofield. That's where sound healing can be incredibly helpful because you can actually work to create harmony in that field. But when things bump up against that field, this is where we get these little hits of, oh, there's somebody in the room with me, or oh, I'm not alone anymore, or maybe there's something more that isn't being said and I should look into this, right? You can get those vibes with people too, right? So when you meet a new person and you just click, and you're like, "Oh, I just met this new person. I'm so excited because, like, I feel like I've known them forever." There could be a knowing there. Sometimes it's meeting a new person and you're like, "They seem really nice. They said all the right things. I don't know. There's just something and I can't put my finger on it." Like, are any of these phrases like, are you finding yourself nodding your head? I really hope that the answer is yes, because we all get these intuitive hits, and our intuition is really, really smart. And in our culture, we tend to prioritize the ego knowing. So, this brain in our head, on our shoulders, that is superior to the knowing that we have in our body. But I want you to think about a time that you got yourself into a scary situation, and not in a triggering kind of way, but just as an illustration of this concept. In that situation, what happened first? Did you go, I am in a dangerous situation. I need to get away? Or did your body start moving and then your brain caught up? That's usually how it happens. And it's because the latter is usually how it happens. Let me be clear. And the reason for that is our intuitive knowing, our body's mechanisms for protection and keeping us safe are so good that the body goes, "Oh no, danger, Will Robinson, we need to go." And will start moving your body away from the potential threat or the thing that doesn't feel aligned to you before your brain ever catches up. That is extrasensory perception, and that is intuition. It is that knowing. You don't know how you know, you just know. And women are notorious for using sentences like that. I don't know why, but I see it all the time in my practice with clients where they're like, I've been to the doctor. I told them that like there's something going on. The doctor ran labs, the labs were all normal. And they were like, but there's something that's not right. I can't put my finger on it, or I don't quite know what it is. I just know that something isn't right. That is body wisdom talking, body knowing, intuition. That is saying something is out of right relationship here. Send help. And the thing is in our culture, not only is it so noisy outside of our body and inside of our body that we have a hard time to tap into that knowing. Because, like, I've had women in my practice that have sat across the table from me and go, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't happen for me." And the thing is it actually happens for all of us. It's just a matter of whether you've taken the opportunity to get still enough and quiet enough to listen to that little voice inside that says, "This isn't right. Something isn't right." And every single woman I have ever met that has had that knowing and goes, I don't know how I know this. I just know something's not right. When you keep your brain out of it and you listen to the voice in your body, it never, ever lies to you. Your ego brain can lie to you. It can be a jerk sometimes, but your ego brain can lie to you. And it will try to rationalize and it will try to be the smartest person in the room. And the truth is, your body, way smarter. Your cellular makeup, your biofield and how it interacts with things around it, if you want to talk about it in more of a sciencey kind of way. But your intuitive knowing never, ever lies to you. I will give you a great example without getting into too many details because this is actually kind of a really personal thing for me. But I think it's an excellent illustration of what I'm talking about. I had a moment earlier on in my early 20s, like really early 20s, and I had been a very intuitive creature, and then, like, the world started telling me I had to, like, think with my head, right? And once the world got a hold of me in my teen years and I had to, like, think my way through and rationalize, like, I started to distrust that little voice. And I think a lot of us do this, right? Because the world, the socialized container around us tells us that we have to logic our way through things. And I'm a pretty logical cat. So like anybody who knows anything about astrology, I'm an Aquarius. I'm a pretty intellectual, like logic driven human being. And I started prioritizing that function as superior. So fast forward, here I am in March of, I think I was 21 maybe, and I was faced with a life-changing decision. And I was standing at a mailbox with things I had to drop into the mailbox. And if I dropped them into the mailbox, my life was going to change in one direction. And if I didn't put them in the mailbox, my life would change in another direction. And I remember standing at that mailbox, and I'm an old fart now, right? So, like, this is how visceral this is for people. I remember like it was yesterday because of how I felt. And I remember standing in front of this mailbox, and my head was telling me I have no data to believe that I shouldn't do this. This still seems like a logical decision to make. There's no data to prove that this is a horrible idea. And yet, my body was like, "No, no, girlfriend, no, do not do this. This is a horrible idea." And I don't know how long I stood in front of this mailbox, to be quite honest. I just remember it was really cold, and I needed to make a decision because I was cold, because I was in North Central Maine at the time, so I was cold. And I'm like, all the bells, like if you were to think about it kind of like a dashboard with all of the lights and the binging and all the things, like that's what was happening inside of my body. It was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And my brain was like, but I have no data to prove that this is a bad idea. You're overthinking it. Just do it. And so I listened to the head on my shoulders. Within the next 6 months, I saw and lived why that was a bad decision. And it changed like from that 6 months after I made that decision up until 3 years after that decision continued to wreak havoc on my life. And I had to make another decision to get myself out of the path that that decision had put me on. It was some of the sickest years of my life because I had ignored and stomped down this body wisdom and made a decision from the brain on my shoulders instead of the knowing that was coming from inside of my body. When I made a more aligned decision later on, I got healthier. And the more decisions that I have made from my body, so quieting my mind and telling her, girl, sit down and be quiet, and creating space. And when I say creating space, this could be a sacred space in your home. For me, it looks like taking time when I first wake up in the morning to put my hands over my heart. You don't have to do it the way that I do it, but I put my hands over my heart and I ask my body what she needs today. How do you feel? What do you need today? Because then I can tell when it's my body that's doing the talking rather than what I'm picking up in the field around me. I had a hard time making that delineation for a while. I could do that for an entire episode, but I digress. So, when we are looking at extrasensory perception, we feel things and we know things before we know why we know them. But we can only tap into that superpower when we create space for stillness. That could be like ritual in our home and a sacred space. So for some of my clients, they choose to use their pelvic steaming time as that time. And while they're sitting and steaming, they check in with their body, they drop into their body, they take inventory essentially of their body, and they create that stillness that they need to be able to work from. I have become the healthiest I have ever been, and I'm in my 40s now, making this part of my life on a regular basis. And I see how it has transformed the health of clients in my practice. Because when we're able to empty and create that empty space in our body, nature abhors a vacuum. Okay.
And now we take a break from our program for a special message. Beloved one, the time of activation has arrived. The ancient ways are calling, and the portal to sacred healing is open. If you've been feeling the pull to deepen your wisdom in holistic women's health, let me tell you about Rebel Rising, the 2.0 evolution of our practitioner training program. The Rebel Rising program is a sacred container for those ready to reclaim the lost arts of feminine healing. This year, we are offering two powerful paths of study: pelvic steaming, a deep remembrance of womb healing and energetic clearing, and sound healing, where vibrational medicine meets embodied restoration. If you feel the resonance, trust it. Classes begin March 26th, and an exclusive tuition discount is available through February 28th. The portal won't stay open forever. Enrollment closes March 24th. If you are ready to rise, visit moonessence.life to claim your space. The time is now. And now, back to the show.
So if we become empty, the body knowing will fill that space with answers that we need. So, like, think about hard decisions that you have to make. Should I make this investment? Should I move? Should I do this? Should I do that? And the brain gets involved and it will give you like the laundry list of like pros and cons. And I'm not saying pros and cons aren't helpful, but you could pros and cons this whole thing, but then in your body go, I have all of the pros, but it doesn't feel like it should happen. And when you listen to that, it doesn't feel, see, that's the key word, feel. If it doesn't feel like it should happen, and you listen to that voice, it's usually not long after you listen to that voice that the reason why actually presents itself. And you go, whew, I'm so glad I listened. Like I said earlier in the episode, your body never lies to you. Of all of the things in your life that you can trust, the thing that will never, ever lie to you is your body wisdom. I think back to really big moments in my life when I had a heart attack on birth control, taking certain jobs, engaging in certain relationships, making decisions about my career and where I wanted to go. Every single time I made a decision from my head, it went poorly. As I look back in my life, right? Because hindsight's always 2020. Every time I logicked my way through something, it didn't work out well for me. And it was way harder than it needed to be. When I made decisions from that body knowing and listening to what she tells me and allowing the decision to literally rise up from my body. Sometimes the body will speak and then your brain goes, oh shit, that's scary. And that's okay. That's okay. Because your body knows that it's going to be okay. Your brain might go, oh shit, like there is nothing logical in this decision whatsoever. But then it always works out because you listened to what felt aligned to you. Your body is so smart. And we don't give her nearly enough credit. We really don't. So I want you to take this episode and really sit with it and think about, where have you listened to the head or the ego brain versus your heart and your body wisdom? Where have there been fractures in that conversation? How have things worked out for you when you listened to that knowing? And you say, it would feel good if. I feel like I should. I don't know why, but it would feel good if. Those kinds of statements, you are tapping into your senses and your emotional body, but you can only hear that body speak when you are in stillness. So give yourself permission to take even 5 minutes every day and just get grounded, get in contact with your body. And for me, because I'm an Aquarius and I live in my head, I actually had to put my hands on my body when I started doing this exercise because it helped make that brain body connection for me. Pelvic steaming was honestly one of the best gifts I ever gave myself because it was one of the first times that I truly felt embodied. And I wasn't just living in my brain, but I was able to drop my awareness down into my body. Maybe you start bringing pelvic steaming into your experience. If that's the case, please reach out to me. I would love to help you with that. But being able to drop into your body, get connected with your body, you're going to find that even 5 minutes a day, maybe it's before your feet hit the floor in the morning. You sit up in bed, your brain's going to wake up and go, oh, I need to do this, and I need to start the coffee, and I need to get the kids out of bed, and da 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 da, right? I don't know about you, but that's usually like what hits my system as soon as I wake up in the morning is the to-do list of shit I've got to do during the day. Most of us, that's where we start. So if you can make it a practice, even 5 minutes before your feet hit the floor in the morning, put your hands on your body or just get your mind into a quiet space and really feel your body. Be embodied. And ask your body what she needs. Because then when you're sitting in a doctor's office and the doctor is saying, you need this, or you need a hysterectomy, or we should run labs, or we blah, 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 or your labs are normal. Your labs are normal. This is in your head. They might not say it directly, it's in your head. Although I've heard practitioners say that. Then you can quiet the noise and listen to your body and go, you know what? My labs might be fine, but there's still something here. Let me get curious and look elsewhere and see if maybe I can get that answer through another modality or another practitioner or a second opinion of some sort. Because women in the traditional medical model tend to get gaslit. There are some really beautiful practitioners in the model, but because of edicts from insurance companies and oh my gosh, there's so many reasons. Short appointment blocks that, that churn and burn kind of thing, the perspective of some traditional male practitioners, and the list goes on. There's so many things that stand in the way of a quality interaction with a provider. And this is not to demonize the provider. It really is a systemic problem. It really is. I talk about it in a little more detail with Dr. Lisa Parsons. So if you did not see the episode or hear the episode, Healing the Healer with Dr. Lisa Parsons, or Advocating with Your GYN with Dr. Lisa Parsons, I would highly recommend you check out those episodes because she talks about this. Like there's a lot of things in the system that aren't working. So it's not necessarily the provider, although there are some providers that are just essentially they're so jaded by the system that they're just kind of like going through the motions because they're hamstrung, tied either by the number of people they need to see in a day or insurance companies dictating what they can and can't send for testing or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that you can't do your due diligence. So if your intuitive knowing is saying there's something still here, I encourage you to be loud, ask, advocate for yourself. And if you're not getting the answers that you're looking for, seek a second opinion. Because even when you don't know what you know, you know. And that knowing is so valuable. Especially for women who it takes 3 to 4 appointments with a traditional practitioner before they like get motion on the thing that brought them in the first place. This is a common problem in women's health. It's a common problem in this space. And so when we're able to drop into stillness and listen to our internal guidance system, we make more aligned choices around our health, around our relationships, around our careers, around how we want our households to run. There's so many ways that this stillness helps you not only come into right relationship with yourself, but make decisions that are aligned for you so that your health can flourish. My father made the comment 3 or 4 years ago. He goes, "Man, you've become outspoken in your old age." And man, did that stick with me because as a young person, I would feel things, I would know things, and didn't feel like I could voice any of that because I was bucking the system or I was challenging authority or I was, fill in this laundry list of reasons why I didn't feel like I could trust this voice inside of me. And I had a heart attack at 25. I was diagnosed with celiac disease at 26. I had been struggling with it since I was 15, but nobody knew what was going on. I had cystic ovaries. I had endometriosis, right? I am listing off the things I had, right? The more I stopped talking and listening to that voice and advocating for myself from that place, the further away I got from using my internal guidance system and only using my brain to make decisions, the sicker I got. I have been healthier since the age of 30 than I was in my younger years. People go, "Oh, yeah, your 20s are the prime of your life." Pah, they friggin' weren't for me because I was too much of a perfectionist. I cared too much about what everybody else thought. How many of us are in that boat? As young women, we give too much of a shit what people think about what we look like and how we sound and our thoughts and the things that we express. And then as we get older, we give way less of a shit because we come home to who we are and we get comfortable with who we are and we realize we don't have to impress anybody. Our vibe will attract our tribe. And if you don't vibe with me, that's fine. I don't want to hang out with you anyway. Right. And I know as a 40 something, that's so much easier for me to say now because I was a crazy perfectionist. And I really do believe that that is part of what made me so sick. But I was doing it from a head place. This has to be perfect. Let me give you the justification why this has to be perfect. And it didn't have to be perfect because humans are perfectly imperfect. We are not perfect. We will never be perfect. And when we learn to accept that and listen to this wisdom that rises up from inside of our body, we make more aligned and healthy decisions. So when my father said, "Man, you've become more outspoken in the last few years," I looked at him and I think I gave him probably the biggest smile I've ever had. And I was like, "Thank you for noticing. I'm so much healthier now than I used to be." And he didn't have anything else to say to that because it's true. I naturally conceived my son at 40 years old. Like, I didn't have to work for it because my body was in right relationship with itself. It was healthy. I was taking care of myself. I was making decisions from this knowing place. So, listen to this episode a couple of times. Get creative about how you want to create some space for yourself. And start making it a practice. It won't be perfect at first. There are going to be mornings where that baby is screaming and you roll out of bed and you're like, I got to go deal with this, right? But when you, on a regular basis, create that kind of time for yourself to get still and curious and ask your body, what is it that's here for me? How do I feel today? How I can support you? What do I need to know? I've been able to make really hard decisions in the flow in a much easier way. And when I do them that way, all of the pieces that I need. If it's a really logistical, complicated thing, it all falls into place because it's being done in alignment. You're not forcing anything. It's that way for your health. It's that way in the way that you show up in your life. I used to think I feel statements made me weak. And now I realize that they are a superpower and they make me strong. So try it. I feel. What do I feel? Ask yourself, what do you feel? Do you feel frustrated? Do you feel overwhelmed? What is making you feel overwhelmed? Right? That knowing place is the smartest thing you can get connected with in order to be in alignment and in true health in your body.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at MoonEssenceMe on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.